The red dust of Orpheus 7 swirled around the mining colony as the first signs of the attack appeared. The sky, normally a pale orange at this time of day, was streaked with smoke and fire. Explosions shook the ground as alien ships descended from the atmosphere, their sleek bodies glowing with strange energy. Captain Marcus Hale gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on his rifle. He had faced danger before, but nothing like this. Not here, not now. The colony had been a quiet outpost until a week ago. Humans had been mining valuable ores beneath the planet's crust, unaware that they had stumbled into territory claimed by the Zurath Empire's rivals, the ruthless and unpredictable Ravok. The alien forces were fast, smart, and terrifyingly precise. Now, as the alarms blared, Marcus realized the full scale of what was happening. "Positions! Protect the civilians!" he shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of plasma weapons and the pounding of explosives. His squad moved with practiced efficiency, taking cover behind the colony's structures and returning fire. The humans had superior rifles and shields, but the aliens were agile, darting between cover, firing strange energy bolts that could slice through walls. Marcus ducked behind a metal support beam as a plasma blast tore through the ground beside him. Sparks flew, and the smell of scorched metal filled his nose. He peered out, scanning for threats, when something unusual caught his attention. Amid the chaos, he saw a figure moving differently from the others. She was humanoid, but unlike anything Marcus had seen. Her skin was a smooth silver gray, her eyes a deep violet that reflected the fires around her. She was clearly injured, a streak of crimson spreading across the chest plate of her armor. Despite the danger, she was trying to crawl forward, her movements slow and desperate. Marcus's instincts kicked in. He didn't know who she was or if she was an enemy, but something in her struggle told him she was in pain and alone. Without thinking, he sprinted across the debris-strewn ground, dodging fire and falling metal. "Hold still!" he yelled, raising his rifle not to shoot, but to cover her as he approached. The alien looked up at him with wide, startled eyes. There was fear, but also confusion. Marcus knelt beside her and tore a strip of cloth from his uniform. He pressed it to the wound on her chest, feeling the heat of her blood against his fingers. The roar of battle faded a little in his mind, replaced by the urgent need to save her life. "You're going to be okay," he said, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was racing. "Just hold on. I've got you." Explosions shook the ground again, and Marcus realized the aliens around them were regrouping, ready to strike anyone near the injured figure. He glanced around, calculating. They were in the middle of the open. If he moved her now, they could be exposed. But if he stayed, she would bleed out. He made the decision instinctively. He grabbed her under the arms and lifted her, her weight surprisingly light. She did not resist. He dashed toward the nearest rubble pile, weaving between alien attackers. His squad members noticed and covered him, firing with precision. "Go, go!" one of them shouted. Marcus dropped the alien woman, behind a chunk of twisted metal. He crouched beside her, checking the wound again. The blood flow had slowed slightly, thanks to the pressure, but it was still dangerous. He ripped off another strip of cloth and wrapped it tightly around her chest, feeling the pulse of life beneath his hands. The alien let out a soft sound, almost like a sigh. Marcus interpreted it as relief. He could not have known how significant this moment would be. To him, it was simply survival, the human instinct to help another in need. "Stay with me," he whispered. "You're not going anywhere, not today." His ears rang, and he felt the sting of cuts across his face, but he didn't care. Her life mattered more than his safety. The battle seemed endless, waves of alien attackers coming in relentless succession. Yet Marcus did not falter. He moved from cover to cover, dragging her along when necessary, keeping her shielded from the worst of the attacks. His mind raced, thinking of every tactic, every trick humans had used in past battles. Improvised barricades, feints, traps, anything to survive until reinforcements arrived. Hours passed, though Marcus could not tell exactly how long. Time had a strange quality in the chaos of combat. Yet through it all, the alien woman remained alive, and for some inexplicable reason, Marcus felt a connection forming. Perhaps it was respect for her determination, for her refusal to give up despite her injuries. Perhaps it was simply the shared struggle of surviving in the face of overwhelming odds. Finally, the tide of the battle began to turn. Human reinforcements arrived, dropping from hovercrafts with precision and firepower. The alien attackers, unprepared for the sudden surge, began to retreat. Marcus's squad took advantage of the moment, pushing forward to secure the perimeter. Marcus exhaled, lowering the alien woman gently onto the ground. She was battered but alive. He could feel her pulse steadying under the bandages he had applied. Relief washed over him, though exhaustion followed closely behind. A medic from his squad rushed over, taking charge of her care. Marcus stepped back, allowing them to work, but he lingered, watching her. There was something about her, something regal, something beyond any ordinary soldier, that made him uneasy yet fascinated. "Who is she?" Marcus asked the medic, his voice low. The medic shook his head. "No idea. We didn't have time to identify her before the battle. She's alien, that's all I can tell you, but she's alive thanks to you, Captain." Yet deep down, he sensed this was not the end of the story. Not by a long shot. As the sun set over the red plains of Orpheus 7, Marcus stood alone for a moment, watching the smoke rise from the battlefield. The alien woman was being tended to, but her presence lingered in his mind. There was something more to her, something that would change the course of his life, and perhaps the fate of humanity itself. He had saved a life in the midst of battle, not knowing that this act of compassion would have consequences far beyond anything he could imagine. Yet at that moment, it was simply about survival and the simple truth that humans, when faced with the suffering of another being, would act. Marcus turned toward the horizon, unaware of the quiet eyes watching him from the shadows of the alien retreat. Eyes that had seen his bravery, his quick thinking, and his heart. The alien woman's life had been saved, and in doing so, Marcus had unknowingly planted the seed of a bond that would soon challenge the boundaries between worlds. For now, there was relief, exhaustion, and the lingering tension of a battle barely survived. But deep inside, Marcus knew the galaxy had just become a little more complicated, and that humans, in their small but relentless way, had made an impression that would not soon be forgotten. And somewhere, deep within the alien hierarchy, a single thought began to form, one that would alter the course of empires. The humans, they are not like the others. The next morning, the red dust of Orpheus 7 had settled, leaving behind the burnt smell of scorched metal and alien plasma. Captain Marcus Hale sat on the edge of a damaged transport vehicle, staring at the wreckage of the battle. His squad moved quietly around him, tending to the wounded and repairing whatever equipment they could salvage. For the first time since the attack, there was a strange calm, but the calm was deceptive. Marcus's mind kept returning to the alien woman he had saved. The medics had worked on her through the night, keeping her stable, yet she had not spoken a single word to him. She had simply looked at him with eyes that seemed to see everything, as if she were trying to understand him before even deciding whether to trust him. A sudden sound made him look up. A low hum filled the sky, rising steadily into a pitch that made the hairs on his neck stand. Hovercrafts? No, too smooth, too precise. Marcus stood, hand on his rifle, scanning the horizon. Then they landed. The ships descended carefully, touching the ground near the edge of the battlefield. Humans would have called them sleek, elegant, almost ceremonial. They were nothing like the Ravok attackers. These ships moved with purpose, not chaos. From one of the vessels, a figure emerged. Marcus froze, his pulse quickened. The alien woman he had saved stepped forward, now fully healed and dressed in shining armor that gleamed under the pale light of Orpheus 7's twin suns. She moved with a regal bearing that made even Marcus, a seasoned soldier, instinctively straighten. There was no hesitation in her movements, no uncertainty. Every step was measured, deliberate. She stopped a few meters from where he stood, scanning the humans around her. Her violet eyes locked onto Marcus, and for the first time she spoke. The words were perfectly clear, though her voice carried a musical tone that seemed alien yet familiar. "Captain Marcus Hale," she said. Marcus's jaw dropped. You can speak human." Enough to communicate clearly when necessary. "I didn't know." "I am Elithra," she said, her voice carrying a subtle echo of authority. "Queen of the Zurath Empire." He had saved her life because it was the right thing to do, not because he expected anything in return. The idea that he had unknowingly intervened in the politics of an interstellar empire was almost too much to grasp. Elithra continued, her eyes scanning the horizon as if assessing threats. "Your species, humans, you act with courage, but also with morality. That combination is unusual in the galaxy. Many will kill without thought. Many will act out of fear. You chose compassion. The galaxy underestimates humans because they do not always seek glory. They act for survival, for morality, for instinct. But in doing so, they can change outcomes that empires cannot predict." Marcus noted how different they were from the Ravok soldiers he had fought. The Zurath did not rush or panic. They exuded confidence and discipline, and yet there was something about their movements that suggested they had never encountered humans like Marcus before. One of the guards approached Marcus cautiously. "Captain Marcus Hale," the guard said in perfect human language, "Queen Elithra wishes to escort you to her vessel. She wishes to discuss your actions and their implications. You have made yourself part of a story that is bigger than either of us." I'll come with you." It was advanced yet functional. Elithra gestured to a seat beside her. "Sit," she said. "You will need to be alert. The journey ahead is not without danger, and I must understand more about you and, by extension, your species. There are those who will see humans as a threat, and others who will see them as potential allies. I must learn which you are. Your honesty is refreshing. Few beings are so candid when the stakes are this high." The ship rose smoothly into the sky, leaving the ruins of the colony behind. Marcus watched the landscape shrink below them, thinking about the lives lost and the lives saved. He wondered how many humans would survive the consequences of his single act of compassion. Elithra broke the silence. "You should know that saving me does not automatically make your life easier. There are factions within the galaxy who will see this as an opportunity to challenge me, and by extension, challenge those who aided me. They have courage, ingenuity, and morality in equal measure. I hope to see more of that in the days to come." He was a human, yes, but in this moment he represented more than just himself. He represented the unpredictable strength of his species. Hours passed, and as the twin suns of Orpheus 7 set, casting long shadows across the alien world, Elithra finally spoke again. "Tomorrow you will meet my council. They will question your intentions, your loyalty, and your ability to act under pressure. Do not be afraid. Speak truthfully, and you will be respected." As the ship descended into the shimmering city below, Marcus realized that saving a life had unexpectedly put him at the center of a story far bigger than himself. He did not yet understand the full consequences, nor the danger he might face. But he knew one thing clearly. Humanity had just stepped into the galaxy in a way it never had before, and he was now a part of that story. And somewhere in the quiet of her quarters, Elithra observed him with a mixture of curiosity and cautious admiration. The human had acted without hesitation, without expectation, and in doing so had earned her attention in a universe where trust was rare and life was often expendable. The galaxy, it seemed, had taken notice. And humanity, through a single act of courage, had begun to leave its mark. The journey from the battlefield to the heart of Elithra's capital was longer and more dangerous than Marcus had imagined. The alien world stretched endlessly beneath them, a mix of jagged mountains, glowing forests, and rivers of shimmering liquid that twisted like veins across the landscape. Marcus sat in the hovercraft, staring through the transparent canopy, his rifle resting loosely across his lap. He couldn't shake the thought that somewhere in those vast lands, danger was waiting, and it was not simply a matter of stray Ravok scouts. Elithra sat across from him, calm and regal, her eyes closed as if meditating. Her presence was commanding, even in silence. Marcus had learned to respect her not just as a being of power, but as someone who measured each move with precision. Yet he also sensed that she trusted him in ways few others did. She had survived the battlefield because of his quick thinking. She had survived the journey thus far because he stayed alert, calculating, and brave. The hum of the hovercraft was broken by a sudden warning signal. Marcus's head snapped up. The display panels on the control console lit up in a harsh red. "Ravok vessels," the pilot said, tension in his voice. "Multiple contacts approaching at high speed. They've detected us." The sensor readouts showed at least a dozen craft, all armed and moving to intercept. Elithra opened her eyes and regarded him silently for a moment. Then she said, "You will need to act. They intend to capture or kill me, and they will not negotiate. We need strategy, not speed alone. If we split into pairs, we can draw some of them away and create confusion. I'll coordinate from the back to cover you. Sometimes the unexpected is our best weapon." At one point, he even suggested dropping an improvised flare, creating a momentary illusion that they had split, causing the Ravok ships to break formation. Elithra watched him with a mixture of fascination and respect. Humans, she realized, had a unique combination of courage, flexibility, and ingenuity. The Zurath were advanced, yes, but their thinking was rigid in some ways. They calculated probabilities and relied on superior technology. Humans acted on instinct, on creativity, and on a willingness to risk themselves for a purpose greater than strategy alone. By the time the Ravok ships were forced to break off the chase, Marcus was drenched in sweat and exhaustion. Elithra placed a hand on his shoulder, an unspoken acknowledgement of his skill and bravery. "You have saved us once again," she said quietly. Marcus nodded, breathing heavily. "I'm just doing what I can. You survive because we survive together." "You must understand," she said. "The Ravok will not stop. This sector is strategic. They see my survival as a threat to their influence. They will strike wherever they believe we are vulnerable. You human have shown such skill. I wish to test it further." Protecting the fate of interstellar diplomacy while avoiding death at every step was another entirely. The journey continued the next day. Marcus and Elithra traveled across alien forests where the trees pulsed with energy, their leaves glowing faintly as if alive. Strange creatures flitted between the branches, some curious, some dangerous. Scouts reported that Ravok agents were tracking them, using camouflage and stealth technology to hide in plain sight. Marcus's mind worked constantly, predicting ambushes, setting traps, and coordinating movements with the Queen's guards. At one point, a Ravok strike team attempted an ambush near a cliffside. Marcus acted before anyone else noticed. He used a combination of terrain, timing, and distraction. Rocks were dislodged, creating a temporary barrier, while he signaled the hovercraft to rise suddenly, drawing the attackers into a crossfire prepared by the Queen's guards. The Ravok were skilled, but not prepared for the improvisation and courage of a human mind. Elithra observed silently, noting the subtle decisions Marcus made in split seconds. "You anticipate, but also adapt," she said once the attackers were driven off. "Most species rely solely on pre-planned strategy. Humans, you think fluidly, you see opportunity in chaos. You have to act." Marcus kept watch while Elithra rested, aware that the Ravok might strike at any moment. Around the campfires, he listened as Elithra's guards spoke of their empire, their code of honor, and their history. Marcus learned quickly, asking questions, noting weaknesses, and observing patterns. He was not just a soldier, he was a strategist, adapting to a culture far older and more advanced than his own. One night, as the twin moons rose over the alien horizon, Elithra approached him quietly. "You are learning quickly," she said, "but you must understand that this is only the beginning. There are forces in the galaxy who will challenge humans simply because you are new, because you are unpredictable. It is the ability to influence outcomes, to change situations others consider fixed. You possess this, human, and it may be the key to your species' future." Perhaps humanity was capable of far more than he had realized. As dawn approached, the group continued their journey. They crossed vast plains where the wind carried strange, metallic scents. They navigated rivers that shimmered like liquid glass and cliffs that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. Everywhere, Marcus's senses were alert, anticipating danger, guiding movements, and protecting Elithra. It was during one such moment, when a Ravok sniper attempted an attack from a distant peak, that Marcus's ingenuity shone brightest. Using reflective panels and his knowledge of angles, he redirected the sniper's own energy beam back, disabling the weapon without alerting the enemy to their location. Elithra observed in awe. Humans, she realized, had a unique combination of boldness and ingenuity. By the time they reached the outskirts of the capital, Marcus was exhausted, his body aching from the constant tension. Yet he felt a sense of accomplishment. They had survived ambushes, outmaneuvered skilled attackers, and reached the doorstep of Elithra's empire intact. Elithra turned to him as they approached the city gates, her expression unreadable but her posture relaxed. "You have proven yourself thus far," she said, "but the true challenge awaits inside. My council will not accept humans lightly, and there are those even within my ranks who will question your presence." Now came the challenge of navigating politics, proving loyalty, and showing that humanity's courage and ingenuity could hold their own in a galaxy far older and wiser than themselves. As the gates opened, revealing towering spires and glowing streets, Marcus took a deep breath. He had survived war, ambushes, and impossible odds. Now he would face scrutiny and diplomacy, where his courage would need to be matched by wisdom and his ingenuity by patience. And yet, through it all, he felt a strange certainty. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, fighters, and above all, unpredictable. And in a universe that valued predictability, that might just be their greatest strength. The journey to the capital was far from over, though the battlefields of Orpheus 7 now lay behind them. Captain Marcus Hale leaned against the side of the hovercraft, exhaustion weighing heavily on his muscles, yet his mind remained alert. Every shadow across the alien landscape, every shimmer of movement made his instincts sharpen. He had survived countless firefights, but the universe beyond human space was new, and danger could take forms he could not predict. Elithra sat across from him, serene as ever, her violet eyes closed for a moment as if meditating. The glow from the craft's interior reflected faintly on her armor, making her seem almost ethereal. Marcus had come to respect her not only as a being of immense power, but as someone who measured each movement and decision carefully. She had survived a battle that would have killed lesser beings, and Marcus understood, perhaps more than anyone else, how close to death she had been. A sudden warning light flashed across the console, cutting through the low hum of the hovercraft. The pilot cursed under his breath. Marcus's head snapped up. Multiple blips appeared on the sensor display, Ravok strike ships closing in fast. "They've found us," the pilot muttered. "Too many to outrun." He had fought Ravok's soldiers before, small squads that relied on aggression and precision, but this was different. These ships moved in perfect synchronization, their weapons bristling and ready. "We can't fight them head-on," Marcus said, his voice tight with focus. "We need to use the terrain to our advantage. Take the canyon path, drop low, weave through the cliffs, and use the rocks as cover. Split formation to confuse them, draw some away." Wind whipped past Marcus's face, carrying the smell of ozone and scorched rock. He guided the pilot, pointing out tight turns and sudden rises that would mask their movement from sensors. Behind them, the Ravok ships followed relentlessly, firing bolts of energy that splashed harmlessly against the canyon walls, but the threat was constant. Marcus's mind worked quickly. He instructed the pilot to release improvised flares at calculated intervals, creating brief illusions of multiple hovercrafts. The Ravok ships hesitated, unsure which was the real target. He timed each maneuver with split-second precision, guiding the craft through tight passages that only a human's ability to adapt and improvise could exploit. Elithra watched him silently, her hands folded across her lap. "Your species, you act with courage but also morality," she said quietly. "Few act without immediate gain in mind. You saved me because it was right, not because it benefited you. That combination, courage and morality, is rare. I do what I can when I see someone in danger." They landed in a small clearing near a series of alien spires, away from the immediate threat of the Ravok. Elithra stepped out, her armor glinting in the pale light, her guards forming a protective ring around her. Marcus followed, scanning the area constantly for hidden threats. "You have performed well," Elithra said, her voice calm yet carrying authority. "Most beings would have fled or hesitated. Humans, you act decisively. Adaptability, courage, the ability to act without hesitation. These traits may allow humanity to influence the galaxy in ways no one expects." Yet there was a sense of purpose in her acknowledgement, a recognition that humans could be more than just survivors. They could be catalysts. The following day, they continued their journey on foot through forests of towering, glowing flora. The air pulsed faintly with energy, and Marcus noticed creatures moving through the underbrush, some curious, some potentially dangerous. Scouts reported signs of Ravok tracking, camouflaged within the alien environment, waiting for the right moment to strike. At one point, a Ravok ambush attempted to cut them off near a cliffside. Marcus acted instinctively. He ordered the team to scatter, using the terrain as cover. Using mirrors and reflective surfaces, he redirected the enemy's energy fire back toward their position, disabling several weapons before the Ravok could adapt. The rest of the team engaged in a coordinated counterattack, surprising the ambushers. Elithra watched quietly, noting Marcus's decisions and quick thinking. "You anticipate outcomes, but you also adapt in real time," she said once the skirmish was over. "Most species rely entirely on pre-planned strategies. Humans, you turn chaos into opportunity. You either act or you die." Night fell and the twin moons rose, bathing the forest in a soft, silvery glow. Marcus took his first real moment to rest, sitting by a small fire while Elithra observed him from a distance. She approached quietly, her hands folded in front of her, armor catching the moonlight. "You are learning quickly," she said. "Not just tactics, but how to read the environment, the people, and even your enemies. That is rare among humans. You must also understand influence, foresight, and the consequences of each action. You may have saved me, but every choice from this moment forward carries greater weight. The Ravok other factions, they will see you as an extension of humanity itself. His senses were sharpened by necessity. Every rustle, every glimmer could signal danger. Elithra rested near the campfire, confident in his vigilance. She had observed the humans long enough to trust that Marcus's instincts were keen, yet she also knew that the journey ahead would test him in ways beyond mere combat. One night, as the wind shifted through the trees, Elithra spoke again. There are those in my council who will question your presence. Some see humans as unpredictable, dangerous, even reckless. You must demonstrate not only courage but wisdom. You must show that humanity is capable of more than raw survival. I've only learned to think fast and act when needed. They crossed rivers of liquid crystal, navigated cliffs that seemed impossibly steep, and evaded Ravok scouts using both stealth and strategy. Marcus's ability to improvise became their greatest asset. He suggested diversions, used reflective surfaces to confuse sensors, and calculated routes that minimized risk while maximizing speed. During one particularly tense moment, a Ravok sniper aimed from a distant peak, intending to strike Elithra. Marcus acted without hesitation. He instructed the team to use mirrored panels and reflective armor to redirect the sniper's energy beam, neutralizing the threat without revealing their position. Elithra watched silently, a mixture of surprise and admiration in her eyes. Humans, she realized, combined boldness with intelligence in ways few species could match. By the time they reached the outskirts of the capital, Marcus's body ached and fatigue weighed heavily on him. Yet he felt a quiet satisfaction. They had survived ambushes, outmaneuvered skilled attackers, and reached the threshold of Elithra's empire intact. Elithra turned to him as the gates loomed ahead, immense structures glowing faintly with energy. "You have proven yourself in the field," she said. "But the true challenge awaits inside. My council will not welcome humans lightly, and there are those even within my court who will question your loyalty and intentions." He had survived battles and ambushes, but diplomacy and intrigue were entirely new challenges. Still, he knew one thing clearly. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived under pressure, using courage, ingenuity, and morality to turn the tide of impossible odds. As the gates began to open, revealing streets of shimmering light, towering spires, and the heart of a civilization far older than humanity, Marcus took a deep breath. The battlefield had tested him. The journey had tested him. Now the capital would test him in ways that might demand even more than courage: wisdom, patience, and the ability to influence events in a world far larger and older than his own. And through it all, one truth remained clear in Marcus's mind. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of greatness. In a galaxy that expected predictability and obedience, that unpredictability could become their greatest strength. The city of Elithra's capital sprawled beneath the twin moons like a living constellation. Towers of crystal and metal glimmered in the soft light, streets winding in patterns that seemed both natural and deliberate. Marcus Hale walked beside the queen, his eyes wide as he took in the scale of the civilization he had never imagined. Every step was measured, every guard and citizen observing them with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Humans were rare here, and he could feel their scrutiny, but he refused to let it intimidate him. Elithra moved with calm authority, her violet eyes surveying the streets as if noting every detail. Marcus stayed close, alert to both visible and hidden dangers. They had survived ambushes, tricked snipers, and navigated perilous terrain together. The capital, he knew, would be another type of challenge, one of politics, loyalty, and perception. The council chambers awaited them, a massive structure at the heart of the city. Guards led them through corridors of glowing stone, and Marcus could sense the tension rising with each step. Elithra paused outside the great doors, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "They will challenge you," she said softly. "Not because they doubt you, but because they doubt your species. Humans are unpredictable. They fear what they do not understand." This was not about weapons or combat. It was about honesty, clarity, and action. One of the counselors spoke first, a tall, angular figure whose eyes seemed to pierce through him. "Queen Elithra, you have brought a human into our midst. Tell us why he should be trusted. Why should the Zurath accept a species that has only recently emerged from its home world?" "He has saved my life twice," she said, her voice calm and strong. "He has protected me through danger, outmaneuvered enemies, and proven himself adaptable and courageous. Humans are capable of more than you assume. The same counselor leaned forward, voice sharp. Saving you does not make him representative of his species. What proof do we have that humans are not reckless, impulsive, or self-serving? We are flawed, we make mistakes, but when faced with the choice to act or ignore suffering, we act. That is what I did for the Queen. That is what I will continue to do if called upon. Courage, morality, and adaptability are strengths, and humans have them in ways you might not expect. Some council members leaned forward, listening with interest rather than suspicion. Others exchanged cautious glances. Elithra studied Marcus, her expression one of approval. You see, humans are not only survivors, they are innovators. They do not always follow the expected path. They create solutions when none exist. They act when others hesitate. That is why I trust him. Those traits cannot be ignored. I cannot speak for all humans, but I can show what one human is capable of, and that is all anyone can ever do. The council continued questioning, challenging Marcus with scenarios of diplomacy, strategy, and ethics. Each time, he responded with clarity and logic, emphasizing action that was both moral and effective. He showed how humans used ingenuity to survive in impossible situations, how they valued life even under threat, and how they could adapt to complex political and military landscapes. By the end of the session, the council had not only listened, they had been impressed. The Queen's presence gave weight to his words, but his actions and honesty spoke louder than any title. Elithra addressed the council again. Humans are new to this galaxy, yes, but they have shown courage, ingenuity, and morality that can be an asset to the Zurath Empire. Captain Marcus Hale represents the potential of his species, and I recommend that he be recognized as an ally, not a threat. Outside the council chamber, Marcus felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. The tension that had weighed on him for days began to lift. Elithra walked beside him, her expression thoughtful. "You have proven yourself," she said quietly. "Not just in battle, but in understanding, adaptability, and integrity. Your species may yet surprise many in the galaxy." "I just did what I could. I never expected this recognition. I didn't even know who you were at first." Citizens and soldiers alike recognized him as the human who had saved their queen. He was invited to strategic meetings, where his insights were valued, and his perspective often offered solutions the Zurath had not considered. Even as he learned the nuances of alien politics, Marcus remained grounded in his human instincts. He continued to value life, make quick decisions, and act when necessary. Each action reinforced the impression that humans were not only capable of survival, they could influence outcomes in ways even the most advanced civilizations had not anticipated. Yet danger was never far away. The Ravok, though temporarily thwarted, continued to lurk beyond the borders of the Zurath Empire, waiting for opportunity. Marcus knew the peace was fragile, and that his role, as small as it might seem, could affect far-reaching consequences. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the city's crystal towers, Elithra called Marcus to her side. "The Council has accepted you, but the galaxy will continue to test your species. Your actions, courage, and ingenuity have earned trust, but trust must be reinforced daily. Are you prepared for the responsibilities that come with that? Humans don't give up, and we don't back down." He had acted instinctively to save a life, never imagining that it would lead him to the heart of an alien empire, to the attention of a queen, and to recognition that humanity itself could hold a place in the galaxy. As he looked across the luminous city, Marcus felt a quiet pride. Humanity was no longer a backwater species, struggling to survive on distant colonies. They were recognized, respected, and capable of influencing the course of interstellar events. A single act of courage, a simple choice to act with morality, had opened doors that had been closed to humans for centuries. Elithra stood beside him, her presence a reminder of both the fragility and the power of trust. "You have made your mark, Marcus Hale," she said. "Not just on me, but on your species. Remember that every choice matters, and every action has the power to change outcomes. I'll make sure humanity lives up to that trust." The journey had begun with a single act of compassion, stopping the bleeding of an alien warrior he didn't even know was a queen. That act had rippled across empires, proving that humans could be more than what others expected. They could be heroes, strategists, and allies in ways that would shape the galaxy for years to come. For Marcus, it was both humbling and empowering. Humanity had survived, adapted, and thrived again, and this time they had done so on a scale that no one could ignore. The future was uncertain. Threats remained. Wars would come. But one truth was clear. Humans had earned their place, and Captain Marcus Hale had shown the galaxy what humanity could achieve. One life saved, one act of courage had changed everything. And as the lights of the capital glimmered beneath the moons, Marcus felt ready to face whatever came next, knowing that humans, in their unique way, were unstoppable when they chose to act.